Oh, my fellow Americans, are we reaping our harvest of greed? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
Welcome to Homeowners for Justice. I'm CJ Holmes, founder and your host today. And I apologize for a little glitch this morning. We're starting a little late. But you know, this is internet streaming and you can watch live or archive. So we can really capitalize on that. Real quickly, I want to thank you for being patient. And I'd like to quickly move into today's show. We're going to focus on corruption in politics. Money brings that. And we've invited Laura Wells, Public Banking Institute. She ran as a Green candidate for governor in 2010. And she's definitely convinced and concerned that we get money out of politics and that we have public banking. I'd like to welcome her to the show. And she's brave and joining us via Skype. So thank you for joining us, Laura. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. Thank you, CJ, for all the work you're doing. I love hearing you on the radio and hearing what you're doing, you know, what and what people the organizations are doing. It's inspiring.
Well, we sure appreciate your effort. So tell us a little bit about your efforts to actually bring change to the system, because that's really, I think, what we've focused on.
Yes, well, I ran, you know, as you mentioned, 2 years ago, I ran for governor of California as a Green Party candidate, and my focus was the budget, the money in California, follow the money. Whatever happens, whatever we want, whatever issues that we're dealing with, the budget is where it will happen or not happen. And the other thing, and so it was taxes, tax the rich, duh. My favorite button, I wear it all the time. I don't have it on right now, but it's on my coats, my backpack. Tax the rich, duh. And the other thing was public banking, was to have public banks. And there is a precedent in North Dakota, which a lot more people have started to learn about that. And so we just want to emphasize over and over again the website, which is publicbankinginstitute.org, that has a wealth of information for people to find out about that. And one of the things that happened when talking with Mark Armstrong, who's I think his title is Executive Director of Public Banking Institute, and he's in Sonoma County, which is, I think, where you're from, CJ.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and he was talking about various places where they've made presentations to elected officials. And I just thought about, you know where those places are? They're places that have Greens in the government, Green Party candidates in the government. And now why is that significant? Because Greens, when they run, do not take corporate campaign contributions. They don't take money from developers. They don't take money from bankers. We, don't take money from those people. And so that when people who are no corporate money candidates get into office, then they are able to be the champions that we need in order to move these things forward. And I know that one of the things I'll say right away is that the 1%, there are various things that make them happy and various things that make them upset or afraid or scared or whatever. And one of the things that makes them happy is when people do one of three things with their votes. Vote Democrat, vote Republican, or don't vote at all. And their preference is don't vote at all. But they've got it covered for the Democratic and the Republican Party. Even some of the greatest candidates that we can think of may go, talk against war, but vote for war budgets and take money from Lockheed. And at the local level, they'll be taking money from developers, but they'll be talking very well on the social issues, and right. Maybe even the prison issues. Maybe they'll be talking, but go for the money, and you'll see where they stand.
Laura, what you've just said is basically these guys are hypocritical. They're going to talk a good game, and then they're going to go get paid by the banksters and the developers and the 1%.
Right. And they're going to talk a good game, and the whole thing works together that some folks can talk a good game because they know that a whole bunch of other folks are going to go against it. So they're not actually, they can even explain to their funders, look, I got to vote this way for my voters. You know, I represent, for example, I live in Oakland. I represent Berkeley and Oakland. I got to vote this way, you know, but they're covered. And a perfect example of that, actually, is healthcare, single-payer healthcare. The legislature passed that twice when Schwarzenegger was governor. And they knew this majority Democrat legislature in both houses, the Assembly and the Senate, knew that he was going to veto it. That was clear. Okay, they've had Jerry Brown as the Democratic governor now for 2 years. And as a matter of fact, there are 8 statewide offices in Sacramento. All 8 of them are Democrats. So Wisconsin would be jealous. You know, Wisconsin would think, boy, that's what we need. You know,
Right.
If in that situation, all our problems would be solved. Well, look at California, and what does the world know about California? They know how great this state has been and has the potential to be, and they know how messed up it is. And so, in the past 2 years, did the legislature pass single-payer health care, which would save money and provide better health? You know, all the studies show that. No, they didn't. Did not.
Right. And see, you've touched on a subject that really is upsetting to me, and that is the game playing in Congress, in our state legislature. They will, like you said, talk a good game knowing somebody else is going to veto it. So who cares?
Right, exactly. And so I live really, really simply. I mean, I could go into that, but I live really simply so that there are some things that I can spend money on. And one of the things that I have done, because I'm like a lot of people, I want to have some hope that there are solutions. You know, my leaflets are always, there are solutions, and there are, and that's why public banking, I'm so thrilled about, I'll do a little tangent, but I'm so thrilled about the fact that 20 states across the country are working on public banking. And I'm thrilled about you, CJ Holmes, that you are working with people to use the laws as they exist right now and to push for better laws, but to also use the laws that exist right now to do that. Now, so looking for hope has taken me to South America and Latin America, Central America, because a lot of lies are being told about them, about those countries, like the countries that have brand new constitutions, Bolivia, Ecuador, and Venezuela. Lots of lies have been told about them. But there's hope there. The disparity of wealth is decreasing while healthcare, housing, schools, opportunities are improving. So I went to Honduras. And, you know, when you talked about the game, that's what brought this up. And Honduras I had a president who was sort of a class traitor, went against what the status quo 1%, you know, thought that he would do, and he started saying, hey, maybe we need a new constitution that benefits the people. And there was a teacher who had gone on a hunger strike. Thank goodness she was off the hunger strike and alive and spoke to us. And I asked her, like a 45-day hunger strike, because of what was happening to the students in the country of Honduras. And I asked her later, I said, did you used to be, strong with one of your 2 political parties? It's called the National Party and the Liberal Party there. You know, we call it the Democratic Party and the Republican Party here. And she said, oh, yes. I thought the Liberal Party would solve all our problems. I was very strong with the Liberal Party. And then here's what she said. Then I realized that bipartisanship is a game they play to keep this system in place.
Yes.
And has echoed in my mind so many times since then. It's bipartisanship is a game they play to keep this system in place. And so what we're doing is we're in a focus. We are creating a no corporate money campaign. And the goal of this is to use the laws, the power that people already have in the existing laws to elect into our government people who are not funded by corporations. And so it's the No Corporate Money campaign. We're focusing on the June 3rd, 2014 primary, so that's in about a year and a half. We're focused on that at the state level, the local level, in between, in California. And I'll tell you, at the state level, there is an opportunity that we're working to see how in the world we can get that information out to everybody. I mean, I'm sure the mainstream media really even wants to hear those three little words, no corporate money.
Right.
I love you, no corporate money, 3 words.
Right.
But here's the opportunity that in the top 2 primary, any voter can vote for any candidate, regardless of your voter registration. So why not vote for a no corporate money candidate? Why not? Throw the spoiler effect out the window. They'll still say it'll spoil because they won't get the best Democrat or something like that. But here's the worst thing that could happen if you voted for a no corporate money candidate for a state office in California with the top 2 primary. You'll have 2 people on the ballot. The worst thing that would happen, in my view, would be you'd have a Democrat and a no corporate money candidate.
Right.
At least you'd have a debate. The best thing that would happen is that you'd have a no corporate money candidate and a Republican. And why is that best? Because then it's even more likely that the no corporate money candidate would be in office, would get elected.
Right.
And so the best way to have anything happen is to vote for a candidate that's not taking corporate money. And then they are in there. And do they have to toe the line of the most powerful political person in this state, which is Jerry Brown? No, they're in there just a crack in the system. And Greens, as I've said, have never taken corporate campaign money, and it's an international party in Canada, which is a little bit more functional, a little bit better than the United States in terms of the public sphere. And it has Elizabeth May, who's in Parliament, and she's a Green Party person. She actually is an American, and she lives up there. And there's actually a bigger opening to get in. But just that one person in their Parliament, and it cracks the system.
Right.
Because why? Because we won't shut up. That's why.
Right.
I was arrested outside of a debate
Right.
and I ran for governor in California. It was perfect. Corporations have any amount of money. 3 years ago, it's been almost 3 years since the Citizens United case, where the Supreme Court said that corporations are people, duh,
Yeah.
and money is speech. So they have, they're having their free speech by just spending money. And I was in as a candidate for governor at the governor's debate up in San Rafael, in the free speech zone, which is barricaded. So you're behind barricades, very far from where the action is. And so at some point somebody gave me a ticket, said you should at least be in the audience. And so go through the guard, get there. And then they, to cut to the chase on this, they arrested me. The security guard said what were not the magic words, which were, "You don't belong here." And sorry, but I could not move. And whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, I'd never been arrested in my life. Anytime they'd say, "You might get arrested if you stay here. If you don't want to go over there, that's fine," I'd always go over there. But he said, "You don't belong here." I got arrested. Metal handcuffs, back of the squad car, dipped my head, the whole thing. Totally dangerous person. And the charge, trespassing at a private party. Trespassing at a private party. Is that perfect? Bipartisan game to keep the system in place?
Right.
And so the point of that is that they can arrest us, but they will not stop us. We will not shut up.
Right.
Elizabeth May in Canada, the one person, no corporate money person in Canada is making waves, because she won't back down. She will say
Right.
what needs to be said. She will represent the people and not the corporations. And that's what we need for public banking. That's what we need for taking over houses by eminent domain. That's what we need people, and this is a plea for anybody who knows anybody who doesn't vote selectively.
Right.
Don't vote mostly, but vote selectively. And selectively, there are some propositions worth voting for, some measures, local measures, and there are some, and we're going to be growing the list of no corporate money candidates. Vote selectively. Piss off. Sorry if I hope I can say that.
Absolutely.
1%.
Exactly.
They have two names. One is the League of Young Voters, and then the other is the League of Pissed Off Voters. And so if you want to irritate the 1%, vote. That's why they try so hard to get people not to vote. And yet they make us think that bipartisan, that there are two parties and that anything else is wasting your vote when it's
That's right.
That's right. Absolutely, that's one of the worst bits of propaganda that they've got out there, that they've forced, that they've been forcing down people's throats in order to keep that 0.1%, really in power. So all of those things work together. The using the existing laws. Yes, work for changing the laws. It's like with keeping people in their homes. We're working to change the laws at the local level, the state level, the national level. We're working on that, but we're not waiting for that. We are working with what we've got right now to keep people in their homes and to get people into the system, to crack this system open, and get so that we don't have 100% of people towing the line.
Right, right. Now, I'd like to also interject, because one of the things I've really focused on and discovered is that judges are often elected and they're being corrupted by the money that it takes and their pension funds. It's just truly outrageous. So really what we need to do is make sure that any judge that's going to be appointed or elected, that we put forth pressure to get those that don't have these vested interests.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's outrageously important. It's like I started looking at the checks and balances that I learned about, probably in the 6th grade, where the Constitution is this wonderful document that has these checks and balances so that no entity has too much power. And I started to look at it. It's the checks and balances to make sure the people have zero power.
Right.
If the people don't have power. But in fact, we do have power.
Exactly. I just have highlighted right now on the live stream the several of the links that are available. They're on our Stealing Our Homes webpage, and here's the article, a report, how special interest super spenders threatened impartial justice and emboldened unprecedented legislative attacks on America's courts. And this is the new politics of judicial elections. In other words, judges have been bought because of campaign funds. And here's another article I just want to point out, Lost, looking for the canons of judicial ethics. And this article discusses the fact of the matter is the judges have their pension funds in the mortgage-backed securities, and they vote on the side of the banks.
Yes.
It's just truly outrageous. This is the people have gotten bought off. We're bought off, and we need to rise up and stop this.
Right, and one of the ways that they don't even buy us off, they don't even get it, and do minor little things to just sort of, dress it up a little bit, make it look like they're doing something like that. You are far more of an expert than I am about the recent law that took effect about, giving people assistance about foreclosures didn't go anywhere near what it should have done.
Right.
I mean, obviously, the kinds of shenanigans that the banks, the private banks have been doing are illegal. The fact that they can't be just, enforcing that finding whatever laws they've got, finding whatever laws there are on the books already to have that happen. So, yeah, I want to talk about the website again for public banking, which is publicbankinstitute.org. And something that's good there also is that there's a regular newsletter. I don't know whether it's monthly or something like that, but you can get a regular newsletter and keep up to date with what's happening. My own website is that there's laurelwells.org, and that's not up to date. It's from the governor's campaign, and there's also Laura Wells Solutions is my blog. So that's laurelwellssolutions.com.
Right.
I have some blogs on there about public banking and a lot about the new No Corporate Money campaign that we're working on and figuring out how we can really get spread out. So, looking at what strategies that laurelwellssolutions.com and publicbankinginstitute.org. Also, I'll give a shout out to the Sonoma Bank. There's bankonsonoma.com. And so that's where a county is looking at the strategies for creating a county bank or city banks or whatever. And so it's called bankonsonoma.com. So those are all very good resources to look at and be inspired. I mean, I think we need to recognize that change can happen. And that's, I'll mention another place where there's been some positive change. And because I already mentioned Latin America, where they have new constitutions, and the people may have heard that Ecuador, for example, empowered nature. They gave nature rights in their new constitution. And in the constitutions of Bolivia and Venezuela, they're empowering people in both in the way their governments run, their elections run, and so forth. Another place locally in West Contra Costa County is the city of Richmond, where they have a Richmond Progressive Alliance, and they've had Greens, Democrats, and others running together, pledging to take no corporate money. And they have, in 2010, their real opponent is Chevron, the biggest corporation in the state of California, Chevron. They have refineries in Richmond. And so why shouldn't Richmond be rich instead of, it should be called Portland? And,
You're so right.
It's got these refineries of the richest corporation in the state. It reminds me, I grew up in Michigan, and the biggest corporations in the world, against the three of which Nader went. Nader went up against the three huge corporations of Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Now, wouldn't Detroit be rich? If that was the headquarters, wouldn't Detroit be a rich city? But anybody who's been there, and about 20,000 people went there in the year 2010 to go to the U.S. Social Forum, and of course the media didn't talk about it, but it looks like a war zone. Now,
yes.
The hope there is that what's springing up in some of those war zone lots that used to have wonderful, sturdy brick houses, because it's not earthquake country, but they have art installations and they have organic gardens and stuff. So there's some hope springing up even there. But so coming back to Richmond, where there's a rich corporation that impoverishes a place where they have facilities located in headquarters or whatever, refineries in this case. Chevron put $1 million against 3 races 2 years ago, and Chevron lost, and lost. This was mayor and 2 city council members. Lost all 3 of them. Now, this year, the Richmond Progressive Alliance also had something trying to combat the adverse health effects on children by having a sugar tax on the soda companies. So unfortunately what happened was that not only Chevron but the American Beverage Association and this huge amount of corporate money came in, and they were running no corporate money, but they came in very close, and so they're not going away, and they're coming back, and they still have Gail McLaughlin as the mayor.
And Laura, one of the other things I see that the money does, and that is if they can't buy a person off, if they can't buy the candidate or the judge, then they will fund the opposite person. They will fund that campaign and then try to get that person to win instead.
That's exactly what they did in Richmond.
Yeah.
And then they have people, and they play all kinds of cards in terms of demographics too.
Right.
They're always playing that game. They see, okay, what do we need to do, and then they just sort of rationalize it all, and they put some fear into people, and and we, all of us people are susceptible to those fears.
That's
There you go. And so, so no corporate money. I mean, the examples are, the label GMO, there was another example. All we want to do is know that they're putting poisons in our foods. Goodness.
Right.
And they fought that like crazy.
Right.
So, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, because one of the things that I'm constantly pushing for and trying to plant seeds in people's minds is, okay, we all know it's corrupt, and we all understand that we need to get more people to vote non-corruptly and to really look beyond what is initially stated or said into following the money. I mean, without a doubt. But what can we really work towards implementing? I'd like you to focus a little bit on more on the public banking, some of of what it actually takes, maybe the steps to actually get a city or a county to consider that, and what that would actually mean. If we had a public bank, like if Richmond had a public bank, what would that mean for them?
Well, that means that the public money, one thing is that the public government would stop throwing money away in the form of 5% interest, on the order of 5% interest to the big banks, while they're getting less than 1% interest in vast amounts of money that every jurisdiction has, like that the city of Richmond would have, or the state of California has a vast amount of money. Some of it is sitting there, earning less than 1%. Right. Meanwhile, for public projects and things like that, they're paying 5%.
Right.
So that right away, just that argument right there is an important argument. Another thing.
And Laura, just a minute before you go on. Let's explain how they would not have to borrow money for public projects if they had a public bank.
Because the money of let's talk about a state. You can talk about this at any level. But the money that, for example, to use a real life example, North Dakota, the money that North Dakota has, the taxpayer money and all of that goes into the Bank of North Dakota. And so there's money in pension funds that needs to be invested. That kind of money can be invested in the public bank. It has been a very stable bank, and it's been there for over 90 years. And it's been Democrats and Republicans, mostly Republicans, have been in the governorship and things like that. It's been very stable and very well run. It's run by professionals and all that. So the money that would otherwise just be, that comes in the form of the tax base, would be there and would be available for the state to use for its own public projects, rather than going outside and getting money when they've already got money sitting here.
And one of the key things I want to make sure everybody grasps, and we'll just touch on this lightly because this is not a public banking seminar and exactly how it would be structured, but the public bank could create its own credit on the fractional reserve system that all the private banks use, and they could then create the credit for their own projects and use that credit, which is basically credit. They create it out of nothing. And right now, this is one of my huge pet peeves, is that all of our private banks are creating credit, fractionalizing 10 to 30 times the dollars in their reserves. they create that, and then they make their own money off of that. It's credit creation for private profit. And I'm an advocate of credit creation for public benefit with the public banks.
Okay, and I know we have just a little bit of time left, but one of the things also is that it's important for people to know that public banks partner with the local independent banks and with the credit unions. They partner with them.
Right.
So the public banks generally are not consumer banks, so they don't deal directly with the customers, but they help the local banks in a way that all of these trillion-dollar bailouts did not help the local banks.
Exactly.
So that helps local homeowners. That helps local businesses. That can help with the student loans. So that partnering with those kinds of banks, and it helps the local banks. Otherwise, they run into a ceiling very fast trying to make business loans. But the state bank, with that credit that, as you were talking about, that they can create, they can help to back up the local banks in participation loans and to have the additional credit that those banks need in order to fund us locally, us, the businesses, the homeowners, the students, and things like that. It's very important.
Laura, do you know if the Public Banking Institute or any entity is working with the regional and local banks, like here in Sonoma County, Exchange Bank, or the credit unions, to get them on board to make these presentations to our counties and cities?
Yes, let me repeat that let me give again the website, both publicbankinginstitute.org and in Sonoma County, bankonsonoma.com. Whether or not you live in Sonoma County or whether or not you live in California, it's like go there, and that is an example of how of going about that very thing. And also in my website, the laurawellssolutions.com, there is a blog about the state bank, about public banking, and I'll just say real quickly, it talks about 3 things. It's like do the research, gather allies, find champions, and that's what we were talking about with no corporate money candidates, especially in elected people, and look for capitalization sources. And so that's in the public banking blog on laurawellssolutions.com. But check all that out. There are people. What's so exciting about it is that these are solutions. These are things that people can be doing and will make, and they're game changers.
Yes.
Supply. What is that famous, an almost famous quote about Rothschild, who said, "Give me control of the monies of the money system and of the banks, and I care not who makes the laws."
Exactly.
So we've got to have control of our money, and let's actually get some people in there that will crack the system and no corporate money.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I've been showing. I just got that site for Banking on Sonoma. I just got that up, and I will link all of these links in the comment section on this live stream. So because what I'm really trying to do is build a research basis so people can go back, they can archive these shows, they can have all the links that we've used in the show easily available in the comment section. And I want to talk just briefly, let's just take 2 more minutes and talk about web of debt. This is I've got that up on the live stream. I'm showing you. I will link it on the comments, and I want you to understand that this is a book written by Ellen Brown, who's also with the Public Banking Institute, and just the first 2 chapters has revolutionized how I think about the money. And the fact of the matter is, I want you to understand, everybody, when you open your wallet and you pull dollar bills out, those are not U.S. dollars. We call it that, but that's a misnomer. If you look at them, you can read them, and they are Federal Reserve notes. And you got to understand that's the notes of a private banking cartel. That's Citigroup and Chase, basically, that own the Federal Reserve. And every time they issue a dollar, they issue it with debt. We owe them. The people owes them. And we need to understand this, and we need to change our money.
Yes, Ellen Brown is marvelous. Get on Ellen Brown's newsletter list. You know, she publishes
idea.
frequently in the Huffington Post, Alternate Common Dreams. You know, and she's quoted a lot in the mainstream media, even. But get her frequent. Well, it's not. I don't know how frequent they are, but get on her list to get her articles. Also, you know, the publicbankinginstitute.org newsletter. So.
Thank you very much, Laura. And I'm sorry it's a little short today because of technical glitches. And trust me, I'm going to be working on my computer and the software because something sort of blew up this morning, and I apologize for that. But we will continue to fight the good fight, and we're looking to connect and make connections with people like yourself and others that are willing to stand up and make a difference. This is CJ Holmes, founder of Homeowners for Justice, signing off for today. Bye.